Hey, it's Força Barça here, and today's video I'm going to be talking about what makes La Liga Santander a great league to watch, and why you should definitely watch it. So let's get right to it, because there's a lot of reasons to watch this league and I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. First of all, La Liga is a very competitive league. In the title race there are 3 teams who compete for the trophy every year: Barcelona and the 2 big clubs from Madrid, of course. You could argue that in other leagues there's more teams competing. With the Premier League, for example, there will be people who say it's a race between 4 or 5 teams. But realistically, you know from the beginning it's gonna be between 2 or 3 maybe. In France it's almost always PSG, and the Bundesliga it's always, but then I mean always, Bayern Munich. In the Serie A there's been a whole period where Juventus just won it every year too. Now they've lost their hegemony and there's more variation in the champions. The thing is though that that's mostly because of Juventus just becoming worse. So if you know all of this, you see why La Liga is interesting. Almost every time you don't know who's gonna win it up to the last couple of match days. And maybe, who knows, there might once be a surprise and a team like Villarreal wins it. Most of the times these type of teams will just focus on getting European football though. They usually have a less stacked squad than the big 3, which makes it harder for them to stay consistent all season long. That's why you might sometimes see one of these teams do really well and be in the top 3 for half a season, but eventually drop off a little again. In the battle for European spots though, there's always a very interesting battle between the teams who are on a Europa League winner level, I would say. Sevilla, Villarreal, Real Betis, Real Sociedad and Athletic Club are almost always contenders. And sometimes you got Valencia, who used to be Spain's 3rd team behind the big 2 that Atletico are now, or Celta Vigo. Every year the power levels, you could say, between these teams change a bit, based upon their manager, their squad and their European schedule. Sevilla has been the best out of them for a while now, but this season they're not looking that strong. Real Betis are looking great, as do Villarreal and Athletic Club. Real Sociedad seem to be continuing their strong run of form of the last couple of years. So as always, this is again gonna deliver some really interesting games, and the race for European football is definitely one to look forward to. Then there's the relegation battle, and every year this one's interesting too. At the beginning of the season you can always see who the worst teams are just by looking at the squad, as in every league really. Some of these teams can suddenly surprise the world though and safely end up in a good spot in the ranking. But sometimes there are teams that you expect to end up in the middle, like Getafe or even Valencia, who get in danger. So the relegation battle is interesting to follow too. But most of the people won't watch La Liga because of a relegation battle between the likes of Cadiz and Valladolid. 2 teams that stand out are of course Real Madrid and Barcelona, the big 2, not only in Spanish football and world football really. These 2 are the biggest 2 clubs in the world, and some people might throw in other names like Liverpool and Bayern Munich into this conversation, but there the expectations aren't as high. A couple of bad games will get you whistled by the fans, and being a coach of either team is a very mentally exhausting experience. Have Barcelona or Real Madrid ever had a manager who coached them for over 10 years like Alex Ferguson did with Man United? The environment at the big 2 is just too pressurizing to stay there for so long, and any trophy draws will get you sacked quite quickly. But that's only the pressure. If I would ask you who the greatest players of all time were, then your list would probably be something like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Maradona, Pelé, Zidane, Cruyff, Di Stefano, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Xavi and so on. Apart from Pelé, who never played in Europe, all of them played for Barcelona or Real Madrid. The Bernabeu and the Camp Nou are the places where the biggest legends of the game have made their name. That's also why these 2 teams have got so much pulling power over other teams. Also, there might be periods like the last couple of years where they're technically not the best teams in the world, but eventually they always come back. And in La Liga they clash against each other every year for the trophy, and play 2 Clásicos a year at least. These games rarely disappoint, and there's always goals, adversity, spectacle and beautiful football. Historically, there's even a political side to this rivalry. Real Madrid used to be the club that the infamous dictator Franco rooted for and stood for Spanish nationalism, while Barcelona have always been the symbol of Catalonia and stood for Catalan nationalism. I won't get too much into the whole Catalonia versus Spain case here, but it has definitely given the Clásico some extra pressure in the past. Moreover, there's probably no fixture that has delivered more legendary games than the Clásico. Overall, the big 2 make La Liga into the league where often the best players in the world have played, and teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid are something that no other league has. Liverpool and Manchester United or Juventus and AC Milan are just not on that level. But that's only one rivalry, of course. And all over La Liga there's a lot of interesting rivalries and derbies that deliver incredible games. First and foremost there's the Madrid derby, always interesting. This is a matchup that has been legendary for decades already, and before Johan Cruyff joined Barcelona this was the biggest rivalry in Spain. It's a no-brainer that when you've got two world-class teams from the same city, the games are gonna be intense. Surely for Atletico, who are the less successful one out of the two, there's a lot of hate towards Los Blancos. Definitely because they could have won the Champions League twice in 3 years, in 2014 and 2016, if it wasn't for a Real Madrid side that weren't even much better, but just got the edge twice. A derby that has delivered lots of legendary matches already, and every year this is one to look forward to. Between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, there have been numerous iconic games too, and every year they're rivals in the title race. So throughout the years this has also become a big rivalry. It's not the same as the Madrid derby though, since, well, they're not from the same city. There's one other historically big Spanish, or should I say Basque club, that I've not named yet and has also always been a big rival for the big two, Athletic Club. Matter of fact, together with Real Madrid and Barcelona, they're the only team to never have been relegated. And in the first half of the last century, they were basically the biggest, best and most successful club from Spain. For Real Madrid, they were the ones to beat in their first decades. And since Athletic is basically the face of the Basque country, which is just like Catalonia, a region that is often strived for autonomy, and Real Madrid is a symbol of the royal family and Spanish nationalism, its rivalry has always had a political side too. So this one's always one with a lot of intensity. Against Barcelona, the Basque club has also got a lot of history, which is normal if you've both been at the top of the league for decades. And this one's also a battle between two clubs that each represent their own region. This makes them kind of united against Real Madrid, but really united, I mean, they're never gonna be. These two tend to end up against each other on important moments a lot, especially in Copa del Rey finals, so there have been a lot of legendary games between the two. Then there's one last rivalry that Athletic Club have, and it's the one against fellow Basque team Real Sociedad. This is the Basque derby between the team from Bilbao and the team from San Sebastian. While historically Athletic have been the better team and won most of the derbies, there have been periods in which La Real have been more successful. And surely the last couple of decades the fixture has become more balanced. And today they're kind of an equal match and they battle against each other for European football. Lastly, this game is a must-watch one, just because of the atmosphere in the stadium already. Believe me, whoever plays at home. Then there's the derby of Sevilla, aka El Gran Derby, between Sevilla and Real Betis. And while they're historically not that successful, Sevilla has almost always been one of Spain's best teams, and Betis has often been a contender for European football. And the fixture itself, the games are always tightly contested, so this one's been a real derby for decades already. Surely the last couple of years, they've been kind of an equal match and it's difficult to point out a favorite between the two. Lastly, there might be no game where fans live for more than this one. The passion that lives within fans might be the biggest in this rivalry. And just like with the Basque derby, it's just a much-watched game only because of the atmosphere already. Whoever plays at home, you'll find out when you watch it. There are still other big rivalries like the Barcelona derby between FC Barcelona and Espanyol, which has also got a political side, or Levante against Valencia, which is the Valencia derby. But since you can keep talking about them really, I'll move on to the next part of the video, which is about the authenticity that Spanish clubs generally still have today. Let me explain. In England, the best team of the last couple of years, and yes, it is Man City, Liverpool haven't won the Premier League as much, has literally got there because they were financed by Sheikh Mansour from the United Arab Emirates. You can tell me what you want, but without him, Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland wouldn't be playing there today. But other big English teams have got a rich owner too, and everyone knows Chelsea wouldn't be what they are today without Roman Abramovich. In France, the league used to be competitive before Nasser Al-Khelaifi from Qatar decided to make PSG a super team. And those are only some examples. Who knows which club will suddenly rise to the top because of oil money in the future. In Spain though, there are literally clubs that are owned by the fans themselves. And it's not like those are the relegation teams. Barcelona and Athletic Club are both completely owned by their own club members. Real Madrid are partly owned by their president Florentino Perez, but fans own a part of the club too. Apart from that, most Spanish clubs are owned by families or Spanish businessmen who've always been a fan of their club. And then you got Valladolid, who are owned by Brazilian football legend Ronaldo. That's why it's a shame that the legendary club Valencia are owned by Singaporean businessman Peter Lim. And I hope most Spanish clubs stay out of the hands of these type of international businessmen. Because are you gonna tell me that Peter Lim was a Valencia fan in his youth already and that he grew up watching them? I don't think so. A club is just more authentic if the owner truly loves the club and is a lifelong fan himself. Or even better, the fans just own the club. There's something else that makes some clubs authentic though, and it's the focus on developing your own youth players and having a squad where a lot of players have come up through the youth ranks. Barcelona is probably what you think about now, which is fair. I mean, the Blaugrana have literally built possibly the best team ever mostly out of academy players, without having to invest millions to build a squad that still can't win the Champions League. And La Masia is probably the best academy in the world, But there's other teams out there like Real Sociedad who also got the philosophy of bringing up local players to their youth ranks rather than investing in players from elsewhere. Athletic Club even only allows Basque players in their team, so of course their academy needs to be quite good. And some might find this weird in the year 2020, but for me it's more authentic than it's racist. Real Madrid also has a decent academy with La Fabrica, though they've always invested elsewhere to get big players too. Their biggest legends are Di Stefano, Paco Gento, Zidane and Cristiano Ronaldo, I would say, and none of them came up through La Fabrica. I know Barcelona invested lots of money into Dembele, Griezmann and Coutinho, but Guardiola, Puyol, Xavi, Iniesta and Messi all came up through La Masia. So that's why Spanish clubs are generally the most authentic out of all the big leagues in Europe. The next thing that I just can't leave unmentioned is the atmosphere inside all the stadiums in La Liga. Just watching the games, especially the derbies, is the best way to know what I mean really. All over Europe's big leagues you've got big stadiums and passionate fans of course. I've always felt like in England, where games are usually in the afternoon, fans sing the most, so there's always a very unique atmosphere too. In the Bundesliga, every club has very loyal fans, maybe the most loyal in Europe. In Italy, you've probably got the most passionate ultras, but what has Spain got then? Well, games are often at night when it's dark already, and a lot of stadiums can turn into a real pandemonium for big games. When the home team scores, you literally see the camera shaking, and believe me when I say these type of stadiums and crowds can be intimidating. I'll give you some examples. The Camp Nou is the biggest stadium in Europe, and when it's completely filled, it's intimidating as hell. The Bernabeu gives off a very hostile atmosphere, and apart from Barcelona, no team likes to go there. In the Champions League last season, teams that were better than Los Blancos crumbled in the Bernabeu, and that wasn't a coincidence. Athletic San Mamés is even more intimidating and hostile if you ask me. For me, the most intimidating stadium in Spain even. Real Sociedad's Anoeta gives off a very lively and passionate feeling too. I could literally go over every stadium here, because I've never been disappointed by the atmosphere in any stadium in La Liga, especially in the games against the big two and in derbies. Next to football, a lot of teams play is very entertaining. In England, the pace of the game might be a little higher, but in a La Liga game you'll see more technically beautiful football, and players with a lot of technique will come most of their own in La Liga. And who doesn't like to see these type of players? Generally, a lot of teams are nice to watch collectively too though. Now, this doesn't go for every team, which would be boring. You don't want a league full of teams with the same playing style. Football becomes interesting when different styles clash against each other. Relegation teams like Cadiz will often play very defensive football, and if you want to enjoy the game, I won't advise you to watch these type of teams. But better teams like Atletico Madrid play more conservative too. The thing is just that in Spain there's a lot of teams like Villarreal, Real Betis, Barcelona, Celta Vigo, Sevilla and so on who play attacking football and are nice to watch. Lastly, La Liga is the most successful league. In Europe they've won most of the trophies. The Champions League first and foremost, because of Barcelona and most importantly Real Madrid. But the Europa League too, with teams like Sevilla, Atletico Madrid, Villarreal, Valencia and actually Real Madrid too. There's not much to say about this, but you could say that the fact that Spanish clubs have been most successful means that La Liga is the best league in the world historically. So that's just another reason La Liga is an interesting league. So those are about all of the things that make La Liga worth watching. And if you've watched the video up till this point, it probably means that you're either a big La Liga fan or you're convinced that it's worth watching. So I hope you'll enjoy watching the games. That was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion on La Liga in the comments down below. Força Barça, or more like Força Liga, and have a good day.